Good day, everyone. I am going to discuss the topics about lie detection techniques, covering polygraph. Covering polygraph. Lie detection techniques is all about the course, or it is a course that deals with study of different methods and techniques in lie detection. The anatomy of lying, its theory, kinds, and types. It includes the conduct of polygraph examinations. It also covers the history, personalities, and developments of lie detection in different countries as a tool of crime investigation and also in relation to court proceedings. So let me explain what is lie detection all about. Lie detection is an assessment of a verbal statement with the goal to reveal a possible intentional deceit. Lie detection may refer to a cognitive process of detecting deception by evaluating message content as well as nonverbal cues. It is also may refer to questioning techniques used along with technology that record sa physiological functions to ascertain truth and falsehood in response. The latter is commonly used by law enforcement in the United States, but rarely in other countries because it is based on pseudoscience. When we say pseudoscience, it pertains to information without scientific basis or just an assumption. So in lie detection, the most common and long used measure is the polygraph. So now, what is polygraph? Polygraph is an instrument for the recording of changes in blood pressure, pulse rate, respiration, and skin resistance as indication of emotional disturbances, especially of lying when questioned. The word was derived from the word poly, which means many, and graphs means writing chart. Polygraph comes from the Greek word polygraphos, which means writing much. Therefore, the etymology of the polygraph originated from polis, which means much or many, and graphos, which means writing. Polygraph literally means multiple writings or many writings. Furthermore, polygraph is the scientific instrument that invaluable aid in criminal investigation. As a rule, are restrained from restoring the violation, coercion, promise or reward, immunity and leniency, or employment such as other as may vacate free will as his subject during the interrogation process. A polygraph is commonly referred to as a lie detector, is an instrument that measures and records several physiological responses such as blood pressure, pulse, respiration, and skin conductivity. On the other hand, polygraphy is the scientific method of detecting deception using a polygraph machine. So, why do people lie? People lie in order to get something they want, so-called instrumental reasons, to protect or promote themselves, and to harm others. There are types of liar. First, panic liars. They are the liars who are lie in order to avoid the consequences of a confession they are afraid of, embarrassment, and it is a serious blow to their ego. They believe that a confession will just make the matter worse. Second is pathological liars. They are those liars who cannot distinguish right from wrong due to the sick mind. In fact, they are insane. And lastly, black liars. They are the person who always pretend what he is and what he thinks of himself. Then we have general kinds of lie. I think I just given three, just as at least three. So first is white lie or benign lie. These are the kind of lies used to protect or maintain the harmony of friendship or any relationship. Next, red lie. This involves political interests and motives because this is a part of communist propaganda strategy. This is prevalent in communist countries or communist in infested nations. And lastly, black lie. This is a lie which accompanies pretensions and hypocrites, intriguing to cause dishonor or discredited one's good image. Then, there are other kinds of lie. First is lying by omission. This is one lies by omission by omitting an important fact, deliberately leaving another person with a misconception. Lying by omission includes failures to correct pre-existing misconceptions. For example, a husband may tell his wife he was out at a store, which is true, but lie by omitting the fact that he also visited his mistress, although it is disputable whether or not this is actually a lie. Next is perjury. Perjury is the act of lying or making verifiable false statements on a material matter under oath or affirmation in a court of law or in any of various sworn statements in writing. So perjury is a crime because the witness has sworn to tell the truth and for the credibility of the court, witness testimony must be relied on and being truthful. Then we have types of lies. Pro-social. Lying to protect someone to benefit or help others. Second, selfish. Lying to protect self at the expense of another and or to conceal a misdeed. Third one is self-enhancement. Lying to save face to avoid embarrassment, disapproval, or punishment. And lastly, antisocial. It is lying to hurt someone intentionally. So, we have parts and functions of the polygraph machine. First is cardiosphygmograph. It measures the subject's blood pressures and heart rate. It consists of a blood pressure cuff, a rubber pump, and a sphygmomanometer. When the blood pressure is when the blood pressure cuff is wrapped around the subject's right arm, its rubber portion is placed over the brachial artery, ensuring a more accurate reading. Next is pneumograph. This is a device that measures the respiratory activity or breathing patterns of the subject. An instrument for recording the thoracic movements or volume change during respiration. And next is galvanograph. It designs to detect changes in skin resistance of the subject. It consists of electrodes attached to the index finger and the ring finger of the left hand, the palmar and dorsal surface of the left hand, the left, is suitable because of the fact that the blood pressure cuff attached is on the right arm. And lastly, kymograph. It is the chart recording unit of the instrument, a device which graphically records motion or pressure. This provides the polygraphist with a means of determining pulse rate and question spacing. Then there are the test questions being used during examination. First is relevant questions. Functionally, relevant questions are questions directly related to the offense under investigation. In pre-employment and periodic screening, the area of interest may be a series of relevant questions such as have you ever been fired from a job? Relevant questions are further classified according to its stimulation effect when applied, namely, strong relevant or primary relevant questions, which has an intense relationship to the crime or problem being considered. This is intended to produce strong emotional responses in guilty subjects. Next, secondary or weak relevant are questions that concern with elements of the crime and deals mostly on guilty knowledge and partial involvement. Next, the okay, sorry. Further, the weak relevant classified into the following. First, sacrifice relevant or diet questions, or do you intended to answer truthfully? It designs to observe the response generally generated by the introduction of the first relevant questions in the series. Reaction to these questions give the examiner a clue as to the subject attitude or voluntariness to submit to the test. Then next is knowledge questions. This type of question is propounded to the a subject to detect information about the crime that only a guilty subject. At this type of instance, the praise for sure included to eliminate further suspicious, just in case the subject knew the offender and the location of the evidence but is only hesitant to answer yes. Then lastly is evidence connecting questions. This has to do with inviting subjects' attentions on the probability of incriminating proof that would tend to establish his guilt by linking him and his predicaments to the fingerprints, footprints, tool marks, etc. collected at the crime scene. Okay. So after the relevant questions, the next is control questions. Are used for purposes of comparison. Essentially, truthful subjects are believed by polygraph examiners to be more concerned and thus more physiologically aroused about control than relevant questions. The response to both control and relevant questions are compared. Control questions have two kinds. Primary controlled questions. It recalls the offenses done for the time of childhood up to 3 to 5 years before the occurrence of present offense being investigated. And lastly, what is secondary control question? It is based upon another sort of wrongdoing which will enhance the subject's opportunity for responsiveness. Its scope includes up to the present period of examination. So, lastly, after control questions, we have irrelevant or neutral questions. It is the types of a question which have no importance to the case under investigation. These are questions which are believed to have no or a very little emotional impact on a subject. Thus, such a question can be used as an indicator of a particular subject's normal level of arousal. This must precede the relevant ones. Example, did you eat today? Do you smoke? Or are you wearing a red leather jacket now? We are finished to discuss about the test question. Now we are going to proceed about the different pioneers of polygraph, including to scientific and early method of deception. So I only choose at least 5 pioneers. First is Cesar Lombroso. He employed the first scientific instrument to detect deception. He modified an existing instrument called hydrospigmograph and used this modified device in his experiments to measure the psychological changes that occurred in a crime suspect's blood pressure and pulse rate during a police interrogation. Although he did not invent the hydrospigmograph, he was accorded the distinction of being the first person to have used the instrument successfully as a means for determining truthfulness from deception in crime suspects. Next pioneer was Leonardo Keeler, who had gained first-hand experience in polygraph interrogations as a result of working with John A. Larson at the Berkeley Police Department. Worked to devise a polygraph that used ink pens for recording the relative changes in a subject's blood pressure, blood rate, and respiratory patterns, thus eliminating the need for smoking the paper and then preserving it with shellac. In 1926, the Keeler polygraph came on the market as the new and improved lie detector, an enhanced version of John A. Larson's polygraph. In 1938, he refined the polygraph when he added a third physiological measuring component for the detection of deception, the psychogalvanometer, a component that measured changes in a subject's galvanic skin resistance during questioning, and in doing so, thus signaling the birth of the polygraph as we know it today. In 1939, Keeler patented what is now understood as the prototype of the modern polygraph, which is the Keeler polygraph. Today, Leonardo Keeler is known as the father of modern polygraph. The next pioneer was Sir James Mackenzie. He is an English heart specialist who constructed the clinical polygraph, an instrument to be used for medical examinations with the capability to line tracings of the vascular pulses or the radial venous arterial by way of a stylus onto a revolving drum of smoke paper. This instrument used a component clockwork mechanism for the paper rolling and time marker movements, and it produced ink recordings of physiological functions that were easier to acquire and to interpret. Interestingly, it has been written that the modern polygraph is a modification of Mackenzie's clinical ink polygraph. Then next we have Vittorio Binussi. He successfully detected deception with the pneumograph. Pneumograph is an instrument that graphically measures an examinee's inhalation and exhalation and demonstrated that exchanges in breathing patterns accompany deception. Then lastly, we have the pioneer William M. Marston. he contribute to the science of detection of deception is more method than component instrumentation. He believes that verbal deception could be detected by changes in the systolic blood pressures. He used a standard, a blood pressure cuff or sphygmomanometer to take measurements of systolic blood pressure during interrogation. Later in his work with lie detection, he used a pneumograph to record respiration cycles. Both the sphygmomanometer and the pneumograph separate instruments. So that's all for today. Thank you for watching, and most especially I would like to say thank you to our advisor and our subject teacher, Ma'am Bernadette De Guzman, in Lie Detection Techniques Forensic 5. God bless everyone.